Good morning. My name is Munira Chaudhary, and I am a proxy holder for Mr. Alan Williams. HSBC and a consortium of banks are financing massive dredging of the Payra deep sea port in Bangladesh to make way for, among other things, a coal terminal. This terminal will have an enormous annual capacity of 40 million tons of coal. According to the Port Authority, this coal will supply 8 coal-fired power plants. The dredging for Payra Port is highly controversial. According to Dr. Herman Kudras, a scientific advisor at the University of Bremen with a background in Bangladesh marine geology, dredging and maintenance costs for the channel would be, quote, extremely costly, difficult, or even impossible due to high sedimentation and cyclone-prone inundations. Locals have reported hardships and corruption in retrieving compensation for the land they lost due to the construction of the port. HSBC's annual policy is opening up the floodgates for pollution that Bangladesh has never experienced before. The outcry from local groups in Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Indonesia is clear from this full-page ad on page 19 in today's Financial Times newspaper. Given the significant damage that would result from the burning of coal imported through the expanded Payra port, including damage to Bangladesh and the world's environment, as well as to the livelihoods of locals who would suffer devastating impacts of air pollution, when will HSBC withdraw its involvement in the Payra dredging project?
I think I'll ask John to talk in detail about the particular exceptions we make to Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Vietnam. But I can tell you personally, I've spent a good amount of time in Bangladesh, and it is, as you say, a beautiful country, and we'll do everything we can to preserve that beauty. John.
Mark, thank you, and thank you very much for the question. I'm not familiar with the dredging operation or the financing of that, so I won't speak to you in detail about that, but I think the question speaks really to the energy policy that sits behind that. And in our energy policy, you will recall that we have made exceptions to allow us to continue, possibly, to finance new coal-fired power in 3 countries, of which Bangladesh is one. And we made that carve-out very deliberately, because these are 3 countries where we have the privilege of being a full-scale universal bank. We serve these wonderful economies, and at present, significant parts of the population don't have access to electricity. And at present, it's reasonably clear there isn't a viable alternative to coal. Now, we feel, given that we have a network of 66 countries, it's most important to us that this transition to a low-carbon economy is an inclusive transition. It's too easy to sit in London or Birmingham and say to people in the low and middle-income countries, you can't have what we have. Now, I know it's the transition is complicated because the world has a problem that it needs to solve, but we just felt, as HSBC, the right thing to do was to allow a short window for these 3 specific countries to finance and to develop new coal-fired power. We also recognise that coal is probably the first fossil fuel that does need to come out of the energy picture if we're to effect the transition. So we've been quite clear in this carve-out that in order for us to finance, we will need independent advice that there is no credible alternative in Bangladesh to coal. And any new development will have to be done in the context of the highest possible technology standards. Since we announced this policy a year ago, worth noting, we haven't financed any new coal-fired power. And I think, given that the way technology is moving, as each month passes, the probability that we will probably fall. But I think the carve-out is important to us. This transition must be inclusive. We have a privilege to serve these countries, and it's not for us to tell them that their people can't have electricity. Thank you.